Hello, and welcome to the Illinois LawCast, a podcast about the wisdom, wit, and curiosity of the University of Illinois College of Law. I'm your host, Chris Davies, and this episode focuses on study abroad. My first guest is Rama Hamad, a third-year student at the College of Law who spent the fall semester of 2024 studying in Spain. She had a somewhat unique experience and shares some of the great things she took away from her time abroad. My second guest is Rebecca Ray, Assistant Director of Graduate and International Programs, who joins me to share some of the specifics about studying abroad at Illinois Law. I'm very grateful for the time my guests took to speak with me, and I hope you enjoy our conversation. Rama Hamad, thank you for joining me.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Let's go back to where you started with your journey on studying abroad. What was your original reason for wanting to study abroad?
So that's a good question. I guess it starts further back than law school. I graduated from the University of Illinois in 2022, and I came straight through to law school. So unfortunately, my junior year, which is primarily when people would go abroad in college, was the only year it got canceled because of COVID. So I didn't get to go abroad, and that was upsetting, but I got over it. And then I decided I came into law school, and kind of from the beginning, I had the idea that I wanted to go abroad at some point, not specifically where. I didn't know where. In college, I wanted to go to London, but I know Illinois doesn't have a direct program there. So I had my options open. And by 2L, I was narrowing it down, and it's a very long story, but coincidentally, I learned that I had family in Spain, in Madrid specifically, which is where I ended up studying. And I actually lived with them. This is going to be like a long-winded answer, but I lived in Madrid with my dad's cousin's family. They are like the Spanish version of my family here in Chicago. And so that kind of helped narrow the decision down to Madrid. And then I had also taken Spanish growing up my whole life. So I was like, this is perfect. I can work on my Spanish, meet family. And I did both of those things. So it worked out.
That's very interesting. Yeah. And obviously your undergrad experience you didn't get, but was it something you were thinking about? I mean, when you came to college or even before that? Yeah,
I think it was definitely when I had started college and gone through those first few years, it was kind of like a rite of passage that everyone was going abroad. So I knew I was going to go abroad, and then COVID happened. Obviously couldn't do that. And it was always in the back of my mind because I love traveling. My family travels often. So I tell people that it was for the best that I didn't go in college, because I don't know if I would have necessarily gone in law school if I'd already had the experience. I recommend it either way, even if you have, but I had more money. I was older. I was able to meet other law students while I was abroad. So it ended up being really great.
You said you've had a lot of travel before this, a lot of international travel as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is it about international travel that really excites you and makes you want to keep doing it?
Food. That's like the number one thing I would say. But also I like learning about different cultures. So my parents were born in Syria. So we would travel to the Middle East a lot, and then we expanded that to Europe and just other places generally. So I love meeting new people. And for example, when I was abroad this time, but also other times when I've gone with my family, I speak Arabic. So I've met other Arabic speakers, and I was able to kind of connect with people in that way. So it was nice. That's part of the reason I like to travel too. And just, I love museums. I love going to the beach or going to the mountains or doing whatever I can in new places.
Yeah. Being multilingual, you said you know some Spanish too. How much of an asset was that for you when you were abroad?
It was nice. So there was a spectrum of, I met people who had in Madrid who had no Spanish at all, and they picked up a decent amount. And then I came in having I took Spanish up until my sophomore year of college, since I had been in 5th grade. So it was a while, but never having lived somewhere and used those skills, it was an adjustment to be able to go places and speak Spanish. But also the family who I had lived with, Lola, she's 78. So she was kind of like a grandma figure, but also we would travel, we would do things together and hang out and go to the theater and have dinner and whatever. She only spoke Spanish. no other language. So I really had to like work on that Spanish, and it helped a lot being immersed completely. But just being able to go to restaurants or bars or wherever and being able to speak in Spanish with the people who live there was helpful. But Madrid specifically, a lot of people speak English too. So if I was with friends who weren't able to speak Spanish, they would converse in English.
Yeah. Do you feel fairly, well, maybe not fluent, but closer to fluent now?
Yeah, I say I'm conversationally like fluent. I can manage my way through conversations, and I became sort of like our abroad friend groups like if we needed to speak with like a waiter or someone when we'd be going places, I'd try my best to get us through the conversation, and it worked a lot of times, even though it wasn't always 100%, and it's still not 100%.
Sure. So you have an interesting, unique angle to this, that you found family that you could stay with and visit with. Did you know, you obviously knew you had some family.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about how you connected and made that?
Yes. So a few years ago, it actually extends further back, I guess. Like I mentioned, my parents were born and raised in Syria. My dad, when he had immigrated to the U.S., he had lived in Paris first for a few years, and then he came here. But his first cousin, like on his dad's side, had moved straight to Madrid and had lived his whole life there, basically over 65 years. And they kind of lost connection because of their age gap and just from living in different countries. And then about 7 or 8 years ago, they got back into contact, and he had been living in Madrid, and he had gotten married and had children who are adults. There's 4 of them. They're all age 40 and up. And they were all living in Madrid, except one of them actually is a Spanish professor at Purdue. So because she lived so close with her family, they would come to visit us in Chicago over the past few years. And we would talk more. And I was telling her how I want to go abroad. And, Madrid's actually one of my options. And we kept talking. And then she's the only of that family. She was the only one I had met. And she had offered, my mom, because my dad's cousin, her dad, sadly passed away a few years ago. And she was like, my mom's in Madrid, and she like lives alone at her apartment, and she offered for you, if you want, to stay with her. And at first I had already been looking at 1-bed apartments just for myself. And I was like, I don't know. But a lot of people go abroad and do homestays. And I was like, this is perfect because it's family, and I can work on my Spanish, and I can get to know her. And I actually really did. Like, I lived with her, and we would hang out with her other kids who lived in Madrid. We'd go to their beach house. We'd go to dinner. We went to plays, and she has grandkids too. So I got to know all of them.
Cool.
And it was really great. And we still obviously talk all the time.
Yeah. So that obviously made the decision to go to Madrid a little easier.
Yeah.
Were there other places you were considering going to?
Yeah, I looked at Barcelona too. And then Amsterdam. I visited Amsterdam while I was abroad, and it's so beautiful. And I was like, do I regret not coming here? But I was happy that I chose Madrid because of the whole familial aspect. But there was also I think I was telling my friends who I met abroad, I think Illinois has like over 70 locations that you could try to go to. I thought about Australia. That's another popular one, but that felt a little far. And then I knew I wanted to travel more to other places while I was abroad. So I thought Madrid is so central, so it had opportunity.
Yeah. And you were able, obviously, to see Amsterdam. Did you see other parts of Europe as well?
Yeah. I went all over. I went to Switzerland, France, London twice. I went to Istanbul. I had been with my family, but the friends I met abroad really wanted to go, so I went with them. It was so much fun. And then my favorite place was Morocco. I'd never been, and that was really cool.
Yeah, that sounds very interesting.
Yeah.
And you mentioned friends that you made abroad.
Yeah.
Was there a pretty good group of people studying abroad that you were studying and living nearby?
Yeah. So our classes you could take in Spanish or in English. I took all of them in English because, like I said, I'm conversationally fluent in Spanish, but not law fluent.
Sure, I don't blame you.
Yeah. So I took my classes in English, and I happened like on day one at orientation. It's like kind of like here at the law school at day one of orientation. I met other people from different law schools, both from Europe and from the US. So specifically, I met like a few girls. 2 of them go to WashU, and 1 goes to Boulder Law. And Bobby, we would all hang out, and then we had other friends from a few other different law schools, and then like an Italian friend, a French friend. So we had our classes together, And then we started it was like the second week, we're like, oh, let's go to Morocco. And then, oh, let's do this. So we kept planning stuff together. And then we get dinners together. And then we just hang out basically like normal.
Yeah.
So it was nice.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
What is you mentioned some of the classes that you guys took together. What is the legal education like when you're studying abroad?
It was a lot of it was international. So it wasn't just learning about like Spain's legal system. I took like a comparative contracts class. So I learned about the European Union generally too. I took a law and technology class. So we learned about like EU directives compared to maybe like the US. So I got a very international legal education. But a lot of people ask, oh, did you like go to law school there? And yeah, I took like basic law classes, but just in Spain. So it was nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
And how does it compare with the classes that you take here at the College of Law?
They were very similar.
Yeah.
It's not like you don't get to go abroad and just like blow it off. So it was nice because it did keep me honest about going to class and actually putting in the work. And then we had final exams like we do here. And it was crunch time to study in those last few weeks. And then, yeah, it was nice.
Yeah, crunch time studying when you've got all this stuff to go see. It sounds like it might be even an added challenge.
It wasn't as bad as I thought because I had really front and middle loaded my traveling. So by the last month and a half, I had already wanted to kind of stay in Madrid more and just discover around there and see my family there. So it was nice that I was staying locally and then I studied on like with that too.
Yeah.
So it wasn't too bad.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
How do you think that being abroad, learning things that you are similar to what you learn here at the College of Law, but aren't the same, how has that improved your education and made you potentially a better lawyer?
I got to not only meet other students from different parts of the world and learn about their like process of law. Like I had an Italian friend, Sophie, and she told us about, like, she would talk a lot about how, I mean, law is different when you're studying it in different countries and just their process. Like they don't go to college and then 3 years of law school. It's kind of combined. And then there could be judge school. So I was learning a lot about that. And then also the professors that I had were prominent scholars in Spain. So that was really cool too. And I got to hear a lot of them were like had taught in other countries like France and the Netherlands. So not only were they telling us about Spain, but I had got to hear their experiences in other places, and they were also very interesting. So it was nice to get more of like a broad perspective, and yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if you've kind of chosen what field you want to go to after you graduate, but has this had an impact on that?
I think I am going into transactional, and I'm doing finance work. I've always kind of wanted to be able to work somewhere that would take me internationally, and that getting to live abroad has definitely cemented the fact that I, at some point, for at least a while, I hope to live internationally. And there are a ton of opportunities, and a lot of firms work internationally or companies. But I think going abroad is something I hope to do again and maybe work, or at least just spend time abroad again. I know I'm going to be traveling, but hopefully get to work too.
Cool.
Yeah.
With other students who might be interested in this, whether or not they've done it as an undergrad, a high school student, what would you tell them? Definitely
ask questions, look into it, whether it's to me or the other students who have gone abroad or the abroad office. I think it's easy to, I know a lot of people who are considering going abroad and then they kind of just let it go. But if you're interested in it, just apply and look into it and just take the leap, especially because I had already, whether or not you have a job set for postgrad, I had set mine around the time I was set in the process of setting it, and then I had a job set. So I was like, this is perfect. Like, I have no excuse not to go. I know, like, I don't have to worry about that aspect of it, but just do it, because a lot of people talk the talk of wanting to go abroad, but they don't, either they like forget or they don't look into it. But if you just take the step, it'll be worth it. Yeah.
And was it easy to go through that process?
It was. I think if you want to travel in the fall semester, which is what I did, you have to apply by February 15th. And I applied the first day I could, so I wasn't late. But I know people who realized that they wanted to study abroad kind of close to the deadline or at the deadline, and they reached out and got an extension. So I don't know what that's like, but I know if you make the effort, they could likely accommodate you.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the spring semester, who I had a friend go to Australia last year, I think the application's due September 15th. So you have time to think about it. And then once you're applying, you just need, I think you need 2 professor recommendations, but they're very like easy to go through, and just the application itself. And you get to rank cities, and there's a ton of opportunities. Like I said, I think there was like 70 cities.
Cool. And the office here on the Illinois campus, they're very helpful.
Yes.
And they'll answer all your questions and everything.
I went in a few times, but also email. And then you don't have to do much with the universities abroad office. It's mostly through Illinois. They'll help facilitate.
Very cool.
I mean, the law school's office will help facilitate.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there anything else about your experience that you found particularly valuable that you'd want people to know?
I just met great people. I was in Colorado last week, and one of my friends who I met abroad goes to Boulder Law, like I mentioned, and she picked me up from the airport, and we ski. She taught me how to ski in Colorado, which was really nice. So I was just really happy to meet the people that I met and get to travel with them, and then just make connections with my family too. Traveling is one of the best things in the world. So I was just really excited to be able to do that. And I had a great time, and don't feel like you're going to miss out on a semester in Champaign, because it'll be here when you come back.
Well, great. Rama, thank you very much for sharing your story with us.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Thanks again to Rama Hamad for sharing those wonderful details about her time abroad. My second guest is Rebecca Ray, Assistant Director of Graduate and International Programs. Rebecca Ray, thank you for joining me today. I appreciate you taking the time. Can we start by talking about study abroad at the College of Law, and how popular would you say it is among our students?
At the moment, it's pretty popular because we have a lot of students here now who didn't have the opportunity to study abroad when they were in their undergraduate.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of them are kind of discovering that we have this possibility of studying abroad. And they've really jumped on it lately as, kind of a replacement for what they didn't have the opportunity to do when they were an undergraduate student.
At other universities elsewhere, is this a big part of a law school curriculum, or is it kind of a unique thing that certain students choose to do?
I would say in the US, it's probably not a very popular option for law students, but in other countries, it is very common. And we always have a lot of students from other countries doing exchange semesters with us. But in the US, it hasn't necessarily been part of the law school culture historically. So it is something we need to promote more, that students are aware of it.
Yeah. And what are the benefits for a student to go take a semester abroad?
So that's a really good question, because a lot of students kind of ask us, why would I want to study abroad if, that's not the law I'm being taught here. Mm-hmm. That's not the law I'm going to be practicing. And that's not the law I'm going to be tested on the bar exam.
Yeah.
And so, the answer really is that in law school, they're teaching you substantive law, but they're also teaching you how to think like a lawyer, how to think about the law, analyze it, and also to think about it critically as well. And so gaining exposure to different legal systems around the world will support you in that process of thinking about the law. And it will allow you to understand how different legal systems operate and why they operate the way they do. So it will give students a perspective on the law that they are learning here that they wouldn't otherwise get. And so that's a really important thing in the time right now that we're living in, to be able to understand why systems operate differently than ours. And, if ours is operating as efficiently as it should be.
Sounds very interesting. What are some of the locations that we have partnerships with that students can go when they're looking to study abroad?
So we have a lot of partnerships around the world. We have several partners in various countries in Europe, Asia. We have some in South America as well. And so, our students typically go to a variety of those locations in any given year. And, they always have different reasons for why they want to go to places. Some people just want to sightsee. Other ones, they understand that there are benefits to the location that they're in, economic, political, social, cultural, whatever it may be. And so that's why they choose the locations that they're going to. And so it's, we've got a lot of options for whatever you may be interested in learning more about.
Are there any that are particularly popular or that you've seen more students gravitating towards in recent semesters?
I would say that Europe and Asia are some of the more popular locations because of the kinds of things that they offer. I think American students tend to gravitate toward Europe for a lot of the media that we see about tourism in Europe. And so it's a nice opportunity to get to sightsee and also study at the same time. But Asia is definitely becoming a more popular location for similar kind of reasons. There is growing interest in what different places in Asia have to offer.
And now, if a student is interested in this, or even just learning more, what are the steps that they should take to do that?
So the first step, the best place to start would be to contact me. My email address, I think, is available on our website. I think we also have a bulletin board in the comments, or my email address can be found.
And we can put that in our show notes too.
Yeah, great. Yes, because there are two Rebecca Rays here. So I am the one that you would contact about studying abroad. And we would be able to talk about what our agreements cover generally for all of our partnerships. And we can also talk more specifically about what agreements we have actively ongoing with the different schools and, dates and deadlines and things like that, that would help students decide if they want to pursue this and what they need to do in order to pursue a semester abroad.
Very good. Is there anything else that someone who's interested should know about, contacting your office, about studying abroad generally?
It's always good to start early if you're thinking about studying abroad, because there's a lot of stuff to kind of plan, just course-wise, making sure that you have the credit hours you need to be able to take a comfortable semester abroad. And just kind of generally understanding what all of the steps are. Most students study abroad during their second year. They can study abroad during their fall semester of their 3L year, but because of degree certifications, spring semester 3L year is off the table. So it's really a lot of 1Ls who should kind of be thinking about studying abroad. But of course, the 1L year has a lot more stuff on their mind. So they may not be thinking about it yet. But if there is even a small chance that anyone in their first year might be interested in studying abroad, it would be good to contact us, get some of that background information, and give them time to think about it before they have to make a decision.
Excellent. Well, Rebecca, thank you very much. I appreciate you sharing all this great information.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thanks once more to Rebecca Ray and Rama Hamad for talking to me about study abroad at Illinois Law. Thanks to you, listener, for taking time to listen to the podcast. The Illinois LawCast is available on all major podcast platforms, and video episodes are available on YouTube. Please email podcast@law.illinois.edu to share your comments or suggestions for future episodes. This episode was recorded, mixed, and edited by me. Special thanks to Kelly Moss for our album art and Krista Getke for her help in the editing process. Until next time, thank you for listening to the Illinois LawCast.